There we go. I think we have started to record now. So thank you so much, everybody. Just a quick introduction as to what we're going to be covering today. I've done the welcome and housekeeping quite quickly. I think I have got it wrong, unfortunately. I've completely got it muddled up. We have Daisy Roberts with us from Beat, who's going to be talking about the e-learning site called Spot. And then we'll have Ahmed Adam joining us for Pulse 1-to-1 Staff Wellbeing, Hannah Shad from Healthy Schools talking regarding Be an Ally project, Emma Pilling from Healthy Schools talking regarding the EBSA package and the SEND package. We'll have, you have to forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Nuala Finegan from Manchester City Council as a Quality Assurance Officer talking about EBSA related information as well. Amy Burns from One Education talking about the Inclusion Toolkit, Sara Yunus from Thrive in Education talking about the crisis pathway, and then Rachel Pilling from M-Thrive talking about the M-Thrive offer, which we love to hear. So what I will do is I will stop sharing my slides now, and I will hand over to Daisy. Daisy, are you okay to share your slides?
Yes, of course. Let me just get those up.
No worries. Bear with me 1 second. Let me stop sharing mine. There we go. You should be able to share your slides now, Daisy.
Thank you. Can you see those okay before I get started?
See them all fine. Yeah, hear you fine as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me here today. My name's Daisy Roberts and I am the LMS coordinator at Beat. So Beat is the UK's eating disorder charity. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about SPOT today, which is our offer for school professionals. As you can see, SPOT stands for School Professionals Online Training. Before I get into SPOT, I just wanted to cover briefly why we think schools are so important and why we are targeting them with this. Sorry, I'm just in a message saying someone can't hear me. Can everyone else hear me okay? Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. So we're targeting school professionals, particularly with this training, just because whilst we know eating disorders can occur at any age, school-age children are still a particularly vulnerable group. Schools are also in a position to notice changes that could go missed elsewhere, particularly because they spend so much time in school. You may notice those physical or behavioural changes more than perhaps a parent or a friend may. We also don't know necessarily what a pupil's home life is like. It may be that school staff are the only trusted adults they feel they could confide something like an eating disorder in. And also, if a student is diagnosed with an eating disorder, then they may need some additional support in terms of attendance or around meal times. So it can be really good just for all staff in a school to have a bit of knowledge about eating disorders in order to provide that support. And there's a quote here from Knightsmith, which I just think is quite a powerful quote to share, which just says that children are 9 times more likely to talk to a teacher than they are a parent about their eating disorder. Just again, confirming the important role that school staff have regarding eating disorders and what a difference it can make if they just have a little bit of knowledge about eating disorders and the ability to spot the signs. And then in terms of the role we see school staff having around eating disorders, the main role there is being able to spot those early warning signs. So being aware of the signs of an eating disorder, being able to spot them, and then in turn that people being able to access treatment earlier, which means that they have a greater chance of a quick and sustained recovery. Also reviewing messages that you may share with students as a school and making sure that you're consistent in your messaging around topics like eating, exercise and body shape. Just being there to listen and making sure that there is that environment where students feel that they can share issues around mental health and knowing who to go to and when to go to. And also then raising concerns when appropriate with the appropriate person, if that's a parent, a safeguarding lead, or even CAMS. And then I just put at the bottom there as well, just to highlight that we, of course, don't expect school professionals, to diagnose eating disorders, but we really just want to be able to to recognise those early warning signs and be prepared to take the next steps with confidence. And that is why we created SPOT. So again, SPOT stands for School Professionals Online Training, and it's our offer for school professionals with the aims to be able to recognise eating disorders and be prepared to take the next steps with confidence. And in order to do so, we have a number of resources on SPOT, including e-learning modules, PSHE resources, forums and chat rooms, and webinars. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about those in the next few slides. But first of all, just in terms of who can access Spot, we currently are fully funded across the UK for anyone who works within a school. So anyone who works in a school can access Spot for free. And as you can see, there are lots of different roles on screen here, including teachers, DSLs, lunchtime staff, school librarians, but many more as well, of course. The main criteria is just that if you work in a school, then you can access Spot. Whether you work across multiple schools, whether you work part-time, that doesn't matter, just as long as you work in a school in some capacity. So when looking at the e-learning on Spot, we've divided it up into 3 units of learning, and each unit of learning has multiple courses within it. So we start off with Unit 1, which is Understanding Eating Disorders. So the aim with this unit is to give a background knowledge of eating disorders. So what is an eating disorder? And then a little bit more information about the 3 main eating disorders. So anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating disorder. But we also go into a little bit more detail about some of the other eating disorders as well. And that is also when we start looking at spotting the signs. So what are the warning signs of an eating disorder? And then when we move into Unit 2, we start looking at raising concerns. So that's all about communication. So how to talk to a pupil that may be exhibiting signs of an eating disorder, how to talk to parents, and all about that sort of communication in terms of raising concerns. And then Unit 3 is all about understanding treatment. So it's all about the next steps, what happens next, the referral process, treatment, relapse, recovery, and all of those next steps as well. And the aim really is just not to give school professionals the base level information about what is an eating disorder, but we really want to be able to support them through the whole journey so that they can in turn support the pupil through that journey as well. And as you can see at the end of completing all 3 units, there is a certificate available to download as well, just to show your learning. But there is no obligation to complete all 3. Of course, we do recommend it, but you can do it in any order that you like. Pick and choose which course is most relevant to you at the time. And then the PSHE resources that we have on the platform are within the e-learning, within Unit 2 actually, within the course called Supporting a Pupil in School. And we have a number of PSHE resources. So we have lesson plans with corresponding PowerPoints on topics such as eating disorders, body image, self-esteem, and social media. And alongside those, we also have handouts, which would be printed out and used within the classroom. We also do have an eating disorder policy template. So if your school does not have an eating disorder policy, you can use our blank template and fill it in with the appropriate details. So that really just covers the school's responsibility or staff's responsibilities regarding eating disorders. It covers what the warning signs are and who you should go to if you have concerns. And then alongside those resources, we do have a toolkit available as well, just to help teachers with a bit of additional guidance on how to use the resources, just because we understand that these are sensitive topics and we just want to be able to provide that additional little bit of support for those who may need it. And all of our resources, including the e-learning as well, was all written by our clinicians, and it's available in English and Welsh. And the resources, the PSHE resources that we have are available for the primary and the secondary age groups. So we have them for Key Stage 1 through to 4. And I've just got an example on screen of one of the handouts that we have available. So this is for the Key Stage 1 age group, I believe, for the handout. So it's a wellness toolbox exercise. And it's just asking the students to put in their toolbox what makes them happy and drawing those things inside there. And also just getting them to think about like who they would speak to if they needed to talk about something, or who they can talk to when they're feeling sad. So really just starting those students at an early age thinking about these sort of things. But as I said, we've got resources for lots of different age groups as well. So this is just one example of you, so you can see. And then moving on to the forums and chat rooms that we have on the platform. So we have a monthly expert chat room where there's an opportunity for you to talk to a clinician in real time. As you can see by the screenshot there, we have the next one running on Thursday, the 23rd of November. It runs 4 till 5. We found that that was the best sort of time for school professionals, but we know that we can't find a time that works for everybody. But yeah, that's just a really good opportunity if you have any questions about the e-learning or anything that's going on at school that you want to get a clinician's opinion on, or some support. That's a really good opportunity to get it from there. But we also have a number of forums as well for school professionals to talk to each other about things that you may have been learning on our e-learning or through the webinars. And we also have some other forums as well for talking to BEAT staff and volunteers. So, for example, if the chat room doesn't work in terms of the time for you, we have a very similar forum. We have a forum where you can talk to a clinician. The only difference from the chat room is that, of course, it's not real time. It will be, you can expect a response within a couple of days. So if you have a question, you can post it to a clinician in our forum instead. And it's also really a good opportunity because you'll be able to see what other people have posted as well. And it may be something that you were going to ask or something that is very interesting to you. And we have other opportunities as well. So we do have some experienced carers on the platform as well within the forum. So if you want to get an opinion or some sort of advice from somebody who has supported someone with an eating disorder, perhaps a parent who has gone through that journey within school with their child, you can speak to an experienced carer on the platform. And we also have people who have lived experience of an eating disorder on the platform as well. So again, if you want to get that perspective of someone who has had an eating disorder and has now recovered, that is available on the platform as well. So we have a lot of different voices on the platform and a lot of different areas to find advice and support as well. We've also been running a number of webinars this year, and we have another one planned for next week. So the 7th of November, 4 till 5. The topic of that one is an introduction to ARFID. So ARFID stands for Avoidant Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. So that's an introduction to ARFID next week. But we've run a number of other ones as well. You can see on screen some of the previous topics that we've covered include how to raise concerns with pupils, carers and CAMs, effectively communicating about food and supporting a pupil in school. And these are all run by our clinicians, and we do record all the sessions as well. So they are all available to watch back on the platform. We usually have a bit of a Q&A section towards the end of the webinars as well, so that you can ask questions about the topics that have been covered. And as I say, yeah, they're all available to watch back. So if you were to sign up now, you could still watch all of those ones that have already been on before. I just wanted to share a little bit of feedback that we've had from Spot. So when you sign up to the platform, there is a survey that we ask people to complete before they access the platform. And then we have another survey after people have completed all 3 units of learning. And as you can see, one of the questions we asked was that if they felt confident they could recognise an eating disorder, and that increased from 24% before Spot to 94% after Spot. Similarly, felt confident that they could raise concerns with the student they were worried about, increased from 59% to 95%, and felt confident that they could support a student to access support for an eating disorder, increased from 32% to 95%. So I think those are just really interesting statistics to see the increase in confidence and knowledge that school professionals felt after completing those 3 units of learning. And there's just a quote here that I wanted to share as well from one of our Spot users who had completed the e-learning, so I'll read it out. I found it informative and comfortable to know that one does not have to be a professional counsellor to be able to spot a problem and help make a difference. And I think that was just a really nice summary of the way that we feel about the Spot platform as well. So we're not expecting school professionals to become clinicians or become experts in the field. But if everybody in a school has sort of a base level knowledge of eating disorders and what to look out for, that can make a really big difference to a pupil that may be struggling. And so I've got the link to sign up to Spot on the page, and there's a QR code as well if you want to scan your phone, or there's, as I say, the URL on the screen as well. But as a summary, if you work in a school, then you can sign up to Spot. It is completely free to access. You sign up as an individual so that you can, access all the content at your own time. There's no time frames on it or anything like that. So as many people within one school can have an account as you like. We will ask for some details when you sign up, but that's not so that we can sort of feed back to head teachers or anything like that. It's just for our funding purposes. We need some information about the schools that you work at. And if you are in a role where you work across multiple schools within an area, if you could just put down the name of one of those schools that sign up, that's absolutely fine. So just a little bit of information there about signing up to Spot if you would like to. And I just wanted to touch on a couple of other services that BEAT has as well, just quickly, because it may be that you work with parents or carers as well, and some of this might be relevant for you to signpost them to. So we have something called Shad, which is for young people aged 12 to 25, which is an email support system. So they will be paired with somebody who has also had an eating disorder and has now recovered. So they've been recovered for, I think it's 2 or 3 years, and they can then support that young person from their own experience through that email support, 1 to 3 emails per week, which is moderated by a BEAT helpline advisor. And I think that can be really nice rather than having the face-to-face interaction or the phones. Email can be a bit nicer for people of that age sometimes. We also have Compass, which is 10 weeks of individual coaching support for carers of young people aged 12 to 17. So this would be for the parent or carer of the young person with an eating disorder who are yet to start treatment for anorexia, bulimia, binge eating disorder, or SVED. And we know that this can be really valuable because waiting lists can be quite long for treatment for these eating disorders. So for the parent to get that bit of support in advance of that can be, yeah, like I say, really valuable. And then we also have Endeavour. So that's for, again, parents or carers of people aged 5 to 15 who have ARFID. So whether they are diagnosed or whether they're just displaying symptoms, that's 8 weeks of 90-minute support groups over Zoom for those carers or parents. And as I say, for that one particularly, they don't have to have a diagnosis, but for most of our services as well, we don't require a diagnosis because we know it can be a bit tricky to get that sometimes. So often you just have to be presenting with those symptoms. We also have Pod, which is our online platform for carers. So Pod is very similar to Spot. So again, perhaps if you work with parents or carers, you may want to recommend Pod to them because it also has the e-learning and the forums and the chat rooms, very similar to Spot, but just slightly different, of course, due to the audiences. And we also have our helpline as well. Our helpline is available to everybody. So if you're a school professional and you have a question or a situation that you want to talk through, you can still contact our helpline. It's not just for sufferers. And that, again, is available phone, email, online chat, lots of different options in order to contact us. And there's also a URL about further support for supporting somebody and our services as well. So I know I sped through some of our services just now, but of course, they're all available for you to look at in your own time on our website and through Spot as well. I just wanted to cover those briefly, but there's much more information available on our website as well. And so our email address is elearn@beeatingdisorders.org.uk for anything related to Spot or Pod. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take some questions if I have time in a minute, but if you have any questions afterwards, you can contact our email address here, and we'll be able to help you with anything that you may need. So yes, I hope that was helpful for you all. Like I say, if you have any questions, I'm happy to take some now if I've got a bit of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've definitely got a bit of time. Definitely. Just want to first of all say thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. It was a new sort of a learning curve for me as well. I actually didn't know so much was available online through BEAT as well. Lots of stuff there for parents and carers, for professionals, for young people as well. The befriending email service is fantastic. That sounds really, really great for somebody who just needs that sort of support in a way that's less formalized and quite easy to access. That sounds really, really great. So really, really appreciate you sharing all that information. It is something that I think that needs to have a bit more of a push on. I think sometimes it can get overlooked amongst lots of, unless mental health is such a big, big realm where there's lots of issues presenting. But I think sometimes eating disorders can be indicative of an underlying mental health condition. So supporting them with their eating disorder or disordered eating doesn't have to be sort of labeled as that, or any eating challenges as such, is I think is a good step to support these young people who are dealing with other issues as well at the same time. So really, really do value and appreciate your time today, Daisy. I'd just like to open it up to anybody. If you would like to ask Daisy a question, we've got somebody who's available to answer any questions regarding BEAT or anything to do with the e-learning. Please feel free to shout out or unmute yourself or pop it into the chat. And if there's any questions that come afterwards, I can either send them to Daisy myself, or you can email at the email address that is on the screen as well. So we'll just take a minute or so to see if anybody has anything they would like to offer or anything they'd like to ask Daisy. Seems like you might be in the clear, Daisy. So thank you. So, I think we might have a question here, actually. Yeah.
Sorry, to me, it's Nuala Finegan from the local authority.
Thank you so much for that.
That's okay. I can't help myself. Daisy, that was absolutely brilliant. So much information, so much help and support that I didn't realise you know, that was out there. So that's fantastic. I just want to ask, and this may have a bigger answer than we can deal with here, but about social media and its impact. Is that writ large for parents, for families, for young people in the help and support that you give, or is that not as much of an issue as other factors?
I think it's definitely touched on in the spot, but also on pod. Particularly, we do have, I can't remember if I included it in the webinars, but we definitely did a webinar on social media, which is on spot, available to watch. And we have lots of other online support groups on pod available, which are called Developing Dolphins and Raising Resilience, which are, again, sort of 8-week programs for carers led by a clinician to learn more about how to navigate their loved one's eating disorder. And that definitely will play a part of that. Yeah, it will definitely be mentioned in that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I know it can be, I can sound a bit like a slightly an older person, for want of a better word to say, but I do think social media has a lot to answer for in this day and age. Unfortunately, we see the effects it has on children and young people, and we're just within our IMATA curriculum, we give a lot of support in terms of how to navigate and be critical thinkers, and to kind of dispel information, and to kind of get away from that as well. So thank you so much for that. I think there's just lots of compliments coming in, so thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. No worries, Daisy. You're welcome to stay, or if you need to get off, that's not a problem as well. But thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Right, so swiftly moving on, I will pass over to Ahmed Adam. Are we in the call today at the moment? I think I saw you joining earlier.
Yes, I am. Yes, you'll have to excuse me. I'm on a temporary laptop at the moment, and my camera isn't playing, unfortunately.
Not a worry at all. Do you have your slide deck or your thing that you'd like to share?
Yes, yeah. Just
don't worry about the camera. We can hear you just fine.
Great, thank you. Okay, can you see that, everybody?
It is loading. Yes, I can see that now. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, everybody. My name is Ahmed Adam. Until about 3 years ago, I was a primary school teacher, and I'm going to talk a little bit this afternoon about a subject that's very dear to my heart, staff wellbeing, and an online system that I've created to sort of support that in schools. So this is a system that was started at the time of the pandemic. So when we went into lockdown and remote learning, my head teacher, I was sort of the ICT person in school, asked me if there was a way we could set up a wellbeing survey for staff, just to see how everyone was doing, if they needed anything, if anybody needed a bit of support, that kind of thing. So we did a survey and we sent it out, and I'd say about half the staff replied to it the first time, and then we sent it out again 2 weeks later, and probably 2 people replied to it. And then after that, it just died a death. People found the surveys to be quite repetitive, quite impersonal. So it wasn't working for us. So we felt that we needed a system in place, because around that time it was very stressful for everyone. There was a lot of uncertainty. We wanted a regular way to sort of keep in touch with our staff and find out what was going on for them. So just right in here, there's a little bit of a challenge. The problem is schools are stretched at breaking point at the moment. Recruitment retention is an ongoing concern, and there is rightly a focus on staff wellbeing at the moment, but sort of supporting and monitoring that staff wellbeing without adding to workload is a bit of a challenge in itself. So things that we tried to sort of support and monitor staff wellbeing, avoid talking about surveys, the staff found them to be very impersonal. They took quite a lot of effort to sort of set up, and once the responses came in, to collate all the feedback as well. We were using a free system using Google Forms. I'm aware that there's paid systems out there, but we didn't have the budget for that. We also found that they were very highly subject to bias. So if someone's had a bad week or a bad day when they're filling in the survey, that's what the survey would reflect, regardless of how the rest of the week had been. And eventually they became so infrequent that they weren't really helpful. It was useful to get a snapshot in time, but not really helpful on an ongoing basis. So surveys didn't really work for us. The next thing we tried was just to really stress a sort of open door policy, you know, come and see us if you need to, that kind of thing. And like my head teacher summed it up really well, actually. He said no matter how much he stresses that his door is always open, he will only really find out what's going on with somebody if he sits down with them and asks, how are things, how are you getting on? So, you know, there's a bit of reluctance in staff. I think sometimes staff are reluctant to take small issues to managers for fear of being seen as, you know, they don't want to interrupt the managers. But actually the small issues are exactly what we want to hear about, so we can nip them in the bud before they become bigger issues. This sort of open door policy of come and see me, you know, come and find me if you need me. The other problem with that is it favors the people and the staff who work closely with their managers. They see them all the time, so a lot of teachers, a lot of senior managers will see other members of management all the time. But if you imagine some support staff who maybe start 5 or 10 minutes before the children arrive, and they usually leave 5 or 10 minutes afterwards, you know, it can be a week or longer sometimes before they actually have any meaningful contact with their managers. And the other problem with this system was we still had no feedback about how things were progressing over time. We didn't know how people were doing. And you know, some of our staff were initially they felt that they saw the other staff often enough for this not to be an issue. But what we actually found was there's a big difference in saying to somebody, come and find me if you need me, let me know if there's anything you need, and actually an explicit invitation saying, how are you getting on, actually making time for that person. We found that there's a big difference between the two. So those are things that we tried that didn't work. And that brought us to these one-to-one meetings during lockdown with the remote learning. We actually tried these. So once a week, a member of senior management would have a Zoom call with each member of staff. And they just talk about how the week had been, and just, you know, air any grievances, share any good practice, that kind of thing. And it worked really well for us. But when remote learning stopped and when we went back to schools, it was impossible to manage. I mean, I don't need to tell anybody here how hectic it is in a primary school. Sometimes you can't even find a space to have a meeting, let alone the time. So one-to-one meetings, absolutely brilliant, but they didn't really work for us. And that led to the system that I'm going to show you today. So Pulse is an online check-in system. It's sort of a hybrid between one-to-one meetings and surveys. It's a bit like surveys because it's very quick to complete, and it gives you built-in monitoring of well-being over time. And it's a bit like one-to-ones because it's very personal. It's highly relevant to the member of staff that's completing it, and we allow for open-ended free text answers in these check-ins as well. So how it works is each week a staff member will receive an email asking them to check in, and that email has everything they need to access the system. It's just one click, it signs them in, takes them straight to the check-in form. The check-in itself consists of 2 core questions. One is a simple 1 to 5 rating for well-being, and the other one is a 1 to 3 rating for workload. I'll show you both of those in a moment. And then there's any number of optional sort of free text questions that you can add if you choose to. But those are completely optional. If staff don't want to fill them in, they don't have to. So with just 2 core questions, what that means is check-ins can be done really quickly. Once a check-in is completed, the manager gets a notification email. They are then free to sort of read and respond to that check-in in their own time. And it's also a fantastic opportunity we found, just to sort of manufacture that opportunity for a manager to you know, thank the staff, acknowledge all the hard work they're doing, because like I said earlier, sometimes it can be several days, if not longer, between like an interaction between a senior manager and a member of staff. So that's a really good opportunity for managers to sort of communicate with their staff as well. And then once the check-in is complete, that feeds into a dashboard, a monitoring dashboard, which senior leaders throughout the school can access, and it just shows them, breaks down well-being over time, by term, by week, and if needed, then by key stage and department as well. So I'll show you the demo. hopefully there will be some time for questions at the end, so please feel free to ask. So yeah, staff members get a weekly email. It looks something like this. I'll show you the system from 2 points of view. First of all, as a member of staff that might be checking in with their manager, and then I'll show you what it's like for a manager to respond to a check-in. So this is the weekly reminder email. This can be customized, so staff can ask for it to go out up to 3 times a week. If you don't check in on after the first one, you get another reminder the next day, and so on. And they can customize the frequency to weekly or bi-weekly as well. So there's a button here. Clicking on that button takes you directly to the check-in form. That's what this looks like. It's a little bit daunting, but please don't let that put you off. I'll explain what each of these bits are in a moment. The first box shows you the recipients. So in Pulse, we refer to managers, but really that's just another way of saying the person that you're checking in with. It doesn't have to be that person's manager. For example, in one of our schools, they're quite big on coaching, so they get external coaches that come in once every half term to work with staff. So the staff at that school complete their check-ins with those coaches each week. Another school has got like a peer support program, so staff check in with 2 other staff that they've chosen each week, and they sort of support each other without any managers being involved. So that's fully customizable. You can set which people your staff will check in with each week, and if you want to, it's not enabled for this demo, but you can actually make that so that the person checking in can customize that list. So if you imagine, for example, that Holly's a manager, and the person that's checking in has something to discuss about Holly, they might want to edit that list and remove Holly. That's absolutely fine. You can enable that. So that brings us to the first 2 questions. The first one about well-being. It's a simple 1 to 5 rating. Again, that feeds into the dashboard. The second question is for workload. This is optional. If you don't want to monitor workload in your setting, that's absolutely fine. You can switch this off, and then this question never appears. And then we've got 4 questions. Now these are fully customizable. You don't have to have 4 questions. The vast majority of our schools do. But if you wanted to whittle that down to just 1 question saying how are you, that's absolutely fine as well. These 4 questions are quite good to get a reflection of the week. So you've got what went well and what could have gone better. Those are questions that are looking at the previous week. And then is there something I can help you with this week? That's a practical question looking ahead. That might be things like staff absences that it might need covering, school trips. There's some outstanding questions around that kind of thing. And then lastly, we've got sort of a catch-all general question, which does prompt a lot of discussion in some of our check-ins. So just going back briefly to this question here, we find that this is probably the most valuable question in the entire form, because sometimes what we find is that staff members will put that they're unhappy or that they're very unhappy, but they won't put anything in these boxes to say why. And what we found is what that really means is there's an issue that they want to discuss, but they're not sure how to bring it up. And a system like this sort of lets them flag that up so a manager can see that they're unhappy. And more often than not, an in-person conversation would be the way to respond to that. You wouldn't necessarily respond on here, but that's just a really sort of good way for staff to signal that they need a bit of support. So completing the check-in, as you can see, it's very quick. It's just these 2 questions which are required. It logs you in as soon as you click on that link, and then you click save. And that's the check-in done. Now, because I chose an unhappy rating, it's sort of signposting me to some additional resources there, but usually it would bring you straight to the check-in that's just been completed. So that's how the check-in process works for a member of staff. I'll change over to a manager login now, and I'll show you what it's like for a manager. So I'll log in as Holly. She's a Key Stage 2 manager in this system. And here's the check-in that we've got from Andrew Price. I'll look at that in a moment. So on this screen, Holly can see all the check-ins that have ever been shared with her. She can break it down by team if that's useful. She can sort of filter it so it's only showing the newest ones, and she can also filter by name. So let's say, for example, that Holly's got a meeting with a particular member of staff and she wants to scan back and just get a reminder of any issues that came up throughout the term. You might just arrange them by name and then just have a read through some of the check-ins. So going back to Andrew's check-in that we just completed now, Holly will get an email notification to say Andrew checked in, and the notification does tell her as well what the wellbeing rating was, and that's just so you can prioritize. You know, if the check-in was very happy, then it's probably safe to leave that until the end of the workday or the next time you get a chance to log into the system. But if you get an email saying Andrew is very unhappy, then you know, you'd probably want to follow that up sooner. So along here on the side here, we've got this Who's Here panel. We felt that it was very important for this to be like a one-to-one experience. So we didn't want a situation where you know, you share a check-in with somebody and then it gets shared with somebody else. I'm aware that in systems like CPOMs, you can add additional members of staff to an existing report. That's not what we wanted here, because if you, let's say you were having a one-to-one meeting with your manager, they might then go and paraphrase that conversation to somebody else, but they wouldn't share the entire conversation word for word with somebody else. So we thought it was important to stick to that. So there's no sort of facility in this to share a check-in with somebody. The only people that will ever see the check-in are the people that were listed in the recipients box when you filled it in, and they're shown here as well. Along the side here, we've got the notification status. So when the system was first introduced, it was working great, but the head teacher said, well, I'd like to see what's being said in these check-ins so I can offer support if needed. You know, people are coming to me saying such and such person is checked in, what should I say? So we added the ability to have more than one member of staff that you check in with. But then, of course, if you're a head teacher and you're overseeing 50, 60 staff, you're going to get inundated notifications. So for that reason, you can switch off notifications for particular members of staff, and we show that here so that the person doing the check-in, just to sort of manage expectations around responses. So Andrew can see that both Charlie and Jemima have access to this check-in, but they've got notifications switched off. So Andrew's not expecting a response from either of them, whereas Holly's notifications are on, so Andrew knows that that's where the response might come from. There are two ways to respond to a check-in. The first one is just to put a quick reaction, a simple emoji reaction. This is perhaps more appropriate if there's not a lot of detail in the body of the check-in. The check-in, they're saying they're happy, maybe you've just seen that staff member and you know that they're okay. Just a simple acknowledgement, just to let them know that, yeah, you've read the check-in and all is well. And the other way to respond is put a comment in, and these are quite sort of standard in these sorts of systems. Now, if it's been 2 days since somebody checks in and there hasn't been a response, so there's been no acknowledgement with an emoji and there's been no comment here, then the system will send an additional email reminder to all the managers who've got notifications switched on, just to let them know that there was a check-in and, you know, could somebody please have a look at it and just acknowledge it, because you can imagine if staff members are taking the time to fill this in, it will be nice if that effort was acknowledged. As I was saying earlier, this is also a really good opportunity for managers to sort of check in with staff as well. It's a two-way system, and you know, many managers will sort of take this opportunity just to sort of recognize the good work that's going on around school, to thank staff, to praise them for all the hard work, that kind of thing. So that's the core of the check-in system itself. I'll very quickly show you the monitoring dashboard that is available to senior leaders. So anybody that you designate as a senior leader within the system has access to this dashboard, and it just breaks down the wellbeing ratings and, sorry, I'll just move this out of the way. It breaks down the wellbeing and workload ratings if you've got them enabled as well. And you can do that by month, by term, by week, like I was saying. We've got a couple of other little features that you might find helpful. There's an everyone view, which just shows you an anonymous view of the latest check-ins from across the school. Some schools find that very useful, just as a talking point, as a discussion point. They will put this up in a staff meeting and they'll just say, oh, you know, we're seeing quite a few red faces here, what's going on? And that sort of group sort of check-in can encourage people to speak up, whereas they might be reluctant to in a one-to-one situation. So that's quite useful for some schools. The other feature we have as well is simple sort of prize draw feature just to encourage people for checking in, just to thank them for checking in. And the idea is sort of every half term or every term, the system randomly selects somebody who's checked in, and you know, you can give them a little prize, a box of chocolates or something like that. Just a little sort of nudge to encourage people to check in. Now, as a manager as well, you get access to a check-in report. So you can click this button here, and it shows you the last time that each of your staff, the staff that you oversee, shared a check-in with you. And if it's been more than a week since the last check-in, you can send them a little bit of a nudge there as well. So that's slightly different to the automated emails that you get. The automated ones sometimes, I think, can almost become like background noise. They're very sort of easy to ignore. The email that you send from this screen contains your name, and it explicitly says, you know, Jemima would like to know how you're getting on. Please take a moment to click here and check in, that kind of thing. So that's the core of the system, all built around check-ins and monitoring sort of well-being and workload. As you can see, it is very, very personal, and it does allow staff to bring up any issues that they might be facing. Unlike surveys, which are sort of very, very fixed in the responses, and it's difficult with a survey to sort of start or maintain a conversation, whereas Pulse, that's exactly what it was designed for. You know, this is going to sound strange coming from me, who sort of builds a system like this, but you know, you don't need a system like Pulse, right? Every good manager has a way of checking in with their staff. They'll find a way to get around to all the staff and figure out what's going on. All Pulse does is it moves the start of that process online, and it manages all the reminders and the settings for you. So because it's online, it's a little bit easier for everyone. So it removes some of that friction. It's a little bit more convenient for everyone, so you can do it in your own time. And lastly, it's that difference between like an implicit "come and find me if you need me" sort of approach, to an explicit approach where you're actually signaling to the staff member that yes, we want to hear from you. We want to know how you're getting on. That's why we've invested this time and money in this system that allows you a regular opportunity to feedback with us. So that's the check-in system. We've also got this very nice postcard system. This was initially designed for senior members, just to sort of send a half-termly sort of message to staff to say thank you for all your hard work, have a good break, that kind of thing. But what we found is it's very, very popular with staff members as well. It's just a sort of another way to encourage that sort of whole school positivity. So it works exactly like you know, a lot of schools send postcards home to students. It works exactly like that. The idea is you choose a photo. There are literally millions of photos to choose from. It doesn't have to be one of these down here. You choose some recipients. If you're a member of senior leadership, you can send one to all staff throughout the school. If you're not, then you're limited to teams and individuals. You write your message, and that person gets a notification to say you've shared a postcard. Like I say, these are very, very popular with staff. They'll just send little thank you postcards or little well dones, or just silly sort of little morale boosters throughout the week. But yeah, I'd encourage you, if you do end up trying the system, you can switch postcards off, but I'd encourage you to give them a try and see what you think. Everything within Pulse can be managed from the admin section here. If you've got somebody in your school who's an ICT technician or similar, you can actually set them up so that they would have access to this screen, but then they wouldn't get access to any of the other data, which can sometimes be a tad sensitive. And speaking of that, about the data retention, we do have settings in here as well, which allow you to fully configure what happens with your data. So you can specify how long we keep check-ins on the system, and what once you hit that sort of expiry period, you can say what happens with the older check-ins. Do they get deleted entirely, or do we just delete the written content but keep the ratings? So it's all fully configurable from this panel, and as you can see, it's quite a small and self-contained system. That brings us to the end of the demo itself. I'll just briefly show you some testimonials that we've had from schools. So the system is about I'd say it's just over 18 months old now, and we've got a wide variety of schools using it. We've got a special school with over 200 staff members. You know, it's this massive sprawling thing, and we've got a few village schools as well. Initially, I thought this might be something that was more useful for bigger schools, but that's not been the case. There doesn't really seem to be any kind of pattern as to which schools it works for. You know, we've got some testimonials there. It has also been involved in the Wellbeing Award for schools for a couple of schools. This one's very well received by the assessors. Yeah, we've got a free trial on our website that lasts for 8 weeks. I'd say give it a try. It doesn't work for every school. Like I say, the system's not old enough yet for us to sort of deduce which schools it works for and which ones it doesn't, but it's a completely free 8-week trial. There's no kind of there's no obligation of any kind. Very easy to get started. So if staff wellbeing is something that's a focus for you at the moment, I would strongly encourage you to give it a try. I think we have some time for questions if anybody has any.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. I just want to first start by saying thank you for your time today. I also just kind of want to caveat this Mental Health Leads Network by saying that it is very, very, very rare that I invite a guest speaker to come who has a product and offer that comes with obviously a monetary attachment. However, when Ahmed went through the demo with myself as well, I could just see so much benefits from it. And you can kind of tell from what Ahmed's been saying as well that you don't necessarily need this to have good levels of staff mental health and well-being, but it is a fantastic tool with so much capability and that dashboard view for managers to be able to see overall what's going on and can really help change the picture of staff mental health and well-being in our schools. I just think if it's utilized as a tool to support the conversations that we're probably already having, it's probably going to be increasing that staff mental health and well-being, making sure that staff feel connected with one another, making sure that that check-in system is working quite regularly, and then it can work to sort of making a better morale overall for all staff. So it is something that, like I said, I very rarely bring organizations that have a monetary attachment to it, but however, Ahmed's very kindly offered an 8-week trial as well, so I would definitely recommend giving it a go. You've only just started this half term, see what it's like up until we know what it's like to Christmas. It gets busy, and this might be the best time to kind of get an understanding of, is this going to work in our school environment? Is this something that staff are going to benefit from? Is this making us more connected with one another as well? So thank you so much for that. So I'll open it up to the floor and to the delegates if there's anybody that would like to ask any questions to Ahmed as well. Obviously, unfortunately, he hasn't got his camera capabilities today, so either feel free to put your hand up and shout out or pop it into the chat. So I'll just pause for a couple of seconds and see if anybody has anything they would like to ask or contribute regarding Pulse 121. Think we might be okay for now. If there are any questions, Emma's raised her hand. Emma, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, just from obviously experience of working with schools, I'm just wondering if you've had any feedback on how easy it is to manage. Obviously, you know, in terms of kind of checking in and obviously having their own workload. I'm just wondering if you've got any either, you know, advice or, you know, any information on how schools or anyone who's in charge of this can actually effectively manage it as well as their own workload to ensure that, you know, it's something that they continue with. So a lot of schools we work with can often start these type of things, but obviously they fizzle out because, you know, things take over or it's not consistent. So yeah, any information on that would be great.
Yeah, thanks for your question, Emma. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I was a teacher, and I am highly sensitive, as I'm sure most of you are, to anything that might increase workload. So from day one, this thing has been designed to run itself on automatic, basically, right? You do the initial setup, which is where you add all your staff, and then it just runs on autopilot. It sends out the weekly emails, it sends out follow-up emails if check-ins haven't been responded to. We did a survey sort of, you know, in the early testing, we had about 100 respondents, and 93% of people felt that it either didn't add to workload or it did, but it was a good use of their time because it was saving them time in the long run. sorry, that was managers, and just sort of a similar percent of people that were filling in the check-ins felt strongly that it was a good system, because it's optional to complete the check-ins. So yeah, you get the emails weekly, but you don't have to follow through each week. You can just pick and choose when you reply. So yeah, it's designed to sort of minimize workload as much as possible.
Thanks so much for that. Really appreciate it. Any other questions from anybody else? Seems like we're all okay. So thank you so much for that. Our next speaker is going to be Hannah Shad from Healthy Schools. Hannah, are you with us? Yes, there you are. You're popping up. What we'll do though, we will break very, very shortly because we do have a quite quick, packed schedule. So just up until just maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, such an awkward time. 1 minute, 2 minutes past 2, just to give people a 5-minute comfort break away from the screens, nip to the toilet, grab yourself a brew, and then about 1 minute or 2 minutes past 2 o'clock, Hannah will begin promptly. So just gonna let everyone aware of that. So thank you so much for joining us so far. Just a quick 5-minute comfort break and we'll be joining again. Thank you.
Sorry, Zain, just to check, I'm sharing my screen and I am not
Yes,
uploading it up yet.
You can do, or I can do it for you, and I've got it saved as well. What would you prefer?
Whatever's easiest. If you want to go for it, if you've got it there, but I'm happy to do so also. Yeah, fine.
Do that 1 second. We've just had 1 or 2 people join at this moment. So if you're unaware why there's so much silence, is we're just having a comfort break. We're going to rejoin again at about 2 minutes past 2. Such an awkward time, I know, but that's when the 5 minutes mark started before that. So yeah, 2 minutes past 2, we'll be joining in again. So hence the lack of things going on right now. Okay, this is everybody's 1 minute sort of heads up. We are going to be starting in 1 minute's time. So thank you everybody who's joined so far, and thank you to our guest speakers so far as well. Really appreciate it. And I'll be handing over to Hannah Shad momentarily, who will talk you very briefly through our Be an Ally anti-racism project, which we're super excited about. So last 30 seconds or so, give people the opportunity to come back if you're not already at your laptop, and then we will get started. So I'll give you the green light, Hannah, in a couple of seconds.
No worries.
We all know what it's like when we're staring at a screen for hours on end, so
Yeah.
good for our eyes to get away. Right, that takes us to 2 minutes past. So Hannah, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about Be an Ally, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me and giving me a little bit of time to talk about, and you know, you've got loads of things packed into today, so thanks so much for giving me a little bit of time. So hi everyone, my name's Hannah. I am the social emotional health lead at Manchester Healthy Schools, and I'm here to talk about our brand new recently launched anti-racism secondary package. You might have heard of this before. Essentially the primary version, we launched the primary version pretty much around this time last year. We started with primary, and then we've been working on secondary since then, and Zain is someone that's worked really closely on this and has been invaluable in the support that he gave to this project as well. But we've launched secondary very recently, so I just wanted to kind of highlight it for those that might not know about it or might have heard a little bit but don't know too much. So that's just what I'm going to talk to you about today. So to start, what is Be an Ally? So Be an Ally is our series that promotes diversity and inclusion and works to tackle discrimination and prejudice. And we launched this series last year in 2022 and began with our anti-racism primary programme. We've now followed that with our secondary programme this year, and we hope that the Be an Ally series will grow and grow and grow with lots of other programmes all around promoting diversity and inclusion. So there is an accompanying training to this. So we developed the language of inclusion training that some of you may have already been on. It was when we launched it last year, it was hugely popular, and we're really proud of it. We developed that to ensure that professionals were knowledgeable and comfortable and felt empowered to facilitate this material, but also conversations around it, and that they could deliver the content effectively and promote diversity and inclusion, and feel that any conversations that might come up or any topics that might be a bit sensitive, that they felt empowered to discuss these and facilitate these. Many schools and staff members have already accessed this training live last year, but we recommend this training for all school staff, for everybody and anybody that works in a school or works with anyone, really. It's not even about working with children and young people, anyone who works with anybody. You know, this training isn't just relevant to school settings, it is just relevant. But we say that we would love as many school staff members to engage with that training as possible, but especially ask those that deliver this programme, so the Be an Ally programme, whether it's the primary version or the secondary version, especially those that deliver the programme, we ask that this training is engaged with. So if you're a person that's going to be delivering those anti-racism resources in class, we really ask that you engage with this training beforehand to make sure that you can facilitate it to the best of your ability and that you've got confidence to do so. So we've therefore created a pre-recorded version of this training for schools to engage with at their convenience. So when you get access to this package, to this programme, you will be sent the programme, but you'll also be sent the training as well. So you can then have a look at how do we want to roll this programme out, and when do we want to roll it out? What do we want it to look like in our school? Do we want it to look like an intervention? Do we want it to look like lessons? Do we want it to be part of a themed day or a themed week? Whatever it might be that works for you, and then you can make sure that you engage with that training as it's pre-recorded at your convenience. Who's been involved in the creation of this programme? So as with our primary programme last year, our secondary version was developed by Healthy Schools with support from the Honourable Stuart Lawrence. Stuart Lawrence is a youth engagement specialist with lived experiences of racism and its severity after his brother Stephen Lawrence was murdered in a racist attack in 1993. And we're so proud and privileged to have had his involvement in our Be an Ally anti-racism series. It was great to obviously work with him and get those expertise and that experience from him to help us develop this and make sure it really was able to hit home and get those right messages across. So he's involved in this series, which I'm about to tell you about now. So what's included in this secondary version? So we've got lesson workshops for Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. Now, I say lesson workshops, there is one workshop for Key Stage 3 and one workshop for Key Stage 4. However, they are quite lengthy, and I think just because of the nature of them, they do what's the word? They lead to a lot of discussion. They lead to a lot of conversation, which is what we want. We want people to be discussing this and sharing their thoughts and opinions. So we do say, have a look at them beforehand and see how they work for you. There is an information slide at the beginning for teachers, kind of saying what I'm saying right now. But we say, have a look at them and how you might be using them. But we do say it's probably best to split them into at least 2 sessions. So it's at 1 session. And the reason we did that is so you can choose how you use them and where you see those sessions being broken up. You might think, okay, I can see this being split into 2 in the way that we want to use it. You might say, well, we're going to use it in kind of short form time, so we might split it into 10-minute sessions, but we do say it's probably going to take you more than 1 session, even though it's all there as one session, if that makes sense. Included in those lesson workshops, we've got an interview with Stuart Lawrence, which is a fantastic interview, talking about his experience at the time, what the kind of country was like at the time, the UK response at the time, his personal feelings at the time, given the age that he was doing his GCSEs and things like that. So we'll look at the family impact, the personal impact on him, and the impact on his community and the community in the UK in general. Talk about diversity and inclusion, institutional and systemic racism, scenario-based discussions, and resources for further support. So those are just some of the things that are included in those lesson workshops. We also have 3 form time activity workshops with 3 different topics. So one of them is anti-racism in Manchester. Another one is discussing and exploring privilege and what that might look like. And another one is debate around the removal of controversial statues. And all 3 of those form time tasks are absolutely brilliant. We worked on them within Healthy Schools with Stuart as well. And we really wanted to choose things that we thought young people will already have an awareness of, but they might not have actually had the space to discuss and think about and share. So those 3 form time tasks. And again, we say form time tasks. You might see them in your school at there might be a better time for you to use those. You know, this isn't rigid. We wanted to make sure that this worked for schools. So they're obviously called form time tasks, but again, you might want to use those in an intervention type situation, or as a starter within a PSHE lesson, or whatever it might be. We've also got those as well. So we've got 2 lesson workshops, one for Key Stage 3 and one for Key Stage 4. But as I said, they will take more time than 1 lesson, but you can choose how that looks like for you, and 3 form time tasks as well. So how can you access this? So this is free to all of our engaged schools. So the first part of call is to do your health check and your action plan meeting, or have that action plan meeting booked in. Once that's done, you are engaged with Healthy Schools, and this is obviously one of the many things that we've got on offer this year. So that's the first thing, to get that health check done and then get that action plan either done or booked in, and then you're engaged. Then we will send you out the package. In that package, as I said, you'll have the actual programme with the lesson workshops that we've discussed and the form time activities that we've discussed, but you'll also have access to that training. So make sure you engage with that training, as we say, to make sure you feel confident and empowered to facilitate these conversations and to teach to the best of your ability on this topic. And then the next step, as you can see, this third picture here, this is what the programme looks like. So it's in a Padlet. So we've got the primary, is quite small, but I'll just tell you what it says. We've got the primary stuff there, primary workshops. So we've got the secondary workshops, the secondary form time tasks, a link to the training there as well. And then we've got further resources for staff on the end as well. So that's what it'll look like. So how you can access it: health check and action plan, engage with that training that we'll also send you the link to, and then access all of the programme in that Padlet. And if you've got any further questions, or you'd like access to the programme in general, and this is the first you've heard about it, please send me an email, and I can arrange that to be sent over to our engaged schools. And that's about everything there. If anyone's got any questions or anything they want to ask, you know, feel free. Or if something comes to your mind at a later time, please feel free to send me an email. But thanks so much for that time. Sorry, I spoke so fast.
No worries at all, Hannah. We expect nonetheless, to be honest, from you. Obviously, there will be bias. I can't say without bias, unfortunately, but it is a fantastic package. We've all worked incredibly hard on this, everyone who's been involved, and it's fostered a lot of really, really interesting discussions within our office. What was really interesting was as we built these resources and these packages, we started to have really interesting, quite deep talks around systemic racism, our views, how it's impacted us. Obviously, coming from a South Asian background myself as well, and Hannah comes from a South Asian background as well. We had very interesting perspectives on what things were like when we were growing up and kind of what we were told. And sometimes a lot of stuff was brushed under the carpet. And actually, how has that impacted me as an adult now? And so there was a lot of unpacking and learning for us.
Yeah.
And we hope they will have equally similar conversations for staff in school, first and foremost, and for children and young people. And what we say is the form time tasks and even the workshops themselves, but the form time tasks, if you have the opportunity to do them in staff meetings and run them as like a little bit of a start of a staff meeting to open up a dialogue around systemic racism and racism within the UK, it's really, really interesting. Our practitioners and our educational staff should be able to have those intelligent conversations if we have the expectation of our young people to have them as well. So really, really great package, obviously with bias, cannot say without bias.
Absolutely, but exactly what you're saying, Zain. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of passion that's gone into it from all who've worked on it. Absolutely, exactly what you've said. So you can. It's great, and it is with bias. Obviously, like you say, it's with bias because it's something that we've created, but we've put a lot of passion and experience and care into it as well. It's something that we have a lot of care and passion for ourselves. So hopefully that shows when you deliver the package in your schools. But yeah, so thank you so much.
No, thank you so much for your time today, Hannah. I really, really appreciate it. So moving swiftly on, you all should have Hannah's email address anyway. So if you have any questions, please feel free to send them to Hannah. If you don't send them to me, I can forward them to Hannah. Right, so moving on, I'm going to reintroduce Emma Pilling, who is one of our mental health and lead practitioners, and she is going to be talking a little bit about the emotional-based school avoidance package that we've put together and the SEND package that Emma has available as well. So I will hand over to Emma. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Zain. Super. Right, okay, so good afternoon, everybody. For those that don't know me or haven't seen me much around Healthy Skills, my name is Emma Pilling, and I am a mental health lead, as Zain said, working alongside him within the Healthy Schools team this year. So I am here today to just inform you of our emotionally based school avoidance programme that we are running this year. So it is now up and running. We currently have around 40 schools engaging, so we're just within the training and the auditing process. Schools can engage with this programme as much and as little as they like. So over the next 10 minutes, I will just provide a brief overview of the programme and the approaches that the programme takes. Following this, I will just be taking a couple of minutes then to inform you of our SEND support package that we've also launched this year and the consultation process that we're going through in order to ensure that it does meet the needs of all our schools and if we can develop it any further. So the EBSA programme is placing schools at the heart of both prevention and intervention of EBSA. It's very much public health informed, so we very much focus upon the understanding of those contributing factors, understanding the pictures across our schools, and researching and developing an evidence base of what works to prevent and support EBSA. So really tailoring it to your school needs and ensuring that you can provide meaningful support that you can run with throughout the year. So why are we making schools our focus? So within the training programme, as I've mentioned, the school is very much our focus. So in other training, sometimes it can be very clinically led approaches, which schools can struggle with sometimes in terms of obviously accessing funding to access this or having the staff to provide this approach as well. So what we're looking at addressing those triggers and being aware of that school environment. So really looking at developing that school environment and addressing that school environment, looking at that whole school approach and how this can prevent school avoidance and support reintegration back into school. So with the work so far, what are the whys? And this is what kind of has been our message throughout the support that we've given to schools in determining those whys. So this is across primary and secondary. We've seen academic struggles and pressures, bullying in particular arise in LGBTQ+, you know, not feeling that sense of safety and belonging, transition periods, so in particular after school holidays, especially after the summer. We see that some children still haven't returned to school, or their attendance is very up and down. Social times, in terms of obviously lunch times, break times, just avoiding those transition times across school, in particular within our secondary schools. And just worth mentioning here that loneliness is a huge problem at the moment, impacting children and people. And one of the key reasons that children are avoiding school, you know, they don't have those connections and those relationships within the school, which heighten their anxiety and their self-esteem within the school environment. As I've mentioned, sense of belonging and safety fears, again, up there with the key things and key themes that are coming through, again, relating to that bullying, relating to that feeling of loneliness, those social times, and not having those strong friendships and those safe adults within school, again, linking to the next factor there, poor school relationships, and just general school-based fears. So having that fear of being bullied, having that fear of not fitting in, not knowing people, and in particular, if children have just joined the school, it has been noted that attendance can be an issue here. So we have already ran our first session. However, don't worry, if you do want to join in on session 2, that is a rearranged session that will be taking place on the 9th of November. And previous to that, there will be a recap within the session on session 1, but previous to that, I can send you the full slides and notes and the resources, you know, that you can just quickly skim over to help support you with this session 2. So you don't have to have attended session 1, but like I said, session 2 will cover that, and I'll provide you with those resources. So if you have completed your health check and you still want to engage within the programme, then you can sign up online. So just to kind of give you an insight into this session, the training will explore some of those potential preventative measures to help reduce EBSA alongside potential measures to actually address it. So we look at that prevention first, looking at that whole school approach, and then the intervention. So providing you with the resources that staff within school can use in order to provide that early intervention. So especially if you are waiting, you know, for more specialist support, or it might be that those mental health agencies can't support you at the moment, then at least you can be doing some early work within school, and it might not actually meet their criteria yet if you are putting in that early help offer there. So the audit that we provide within that first early intervention period, so once you've attended the sessions, and again, you don't have to have attended the sessions, we will provide you with an audit. So you can run with this yourself, or you can complete a consultation afterwards. So that audit just assesses the ethos, the environment, the whole school systems and initiatives for promotion of emotional wellbeing and prevention of that non-attendance. So there is evidence there, as you can see on screen, demonstrating the effectiveness and the impact of embedding a whole school approach. So where this has been done in other local authorities, you know, in other school settings, these are the things that have been reported. So that whole school approach does seek to support the prevention of poor wellbeing and poor attendance by strengthening those relationships across school, and that's what it really does focus on. So between the learners themselves and pupils within the teacher and learning, between teaching staff themselves, SLT, wider staff, parents and carers and other professionals working with the school. So we want to provide that holistic and collaborative approach to providing that more specialist support, but also that early intervention work as well. So what we do, we will complete that audit with you. You can just see a few examples from our audit on screen here. And like I say, you can access this audit at any point. You will have the opportunity to reflect and complete the audit throughout the training as well. So you will have time to complete it, and then you can start running with it following the training. In the training as well, we will touch upon the importance of transition work as a key preventative measure, and we'll introduce the transition project that we do have available. Like I said, transition times and that preparation work is key in that prevention of EBSA, in particular from year 6 to year 7. So in terms of intervention, what will the session look at and what will our support look at? So we look at that EBSA support cycle, and what we want to do is implement kind of support pathways within your school. So ensuring that you kind of following a consistent support mechanism, really, to ensure that that support, one, is early enough, meaningful, is appropriate, meets the needs, and something that we can track and monitor over time. And it will help if you need further advice from more specialist support agencies as well. So in terms of the resources from the support, you will get a range of resources for that early intervention work. So information gathering resources for child, parents and carers and key staff, again, to ensure that collaborative approach and that information gathering at first point of call is effective. So again, there just to see kind of the pupil profiling and how this is the first factor will help to support what will help to inform what support that child will need. So basically what it will do is just give you the headings, give you the script to use, give you the information that you may require in order to make sure that child requires that, accesses that relevant support. Then there is a support plan as well, so just to kind of give you more insight into the resources that you will receive, and then parents and carers a support plan as well. So we really do obviously emphasise the importance of getting parents involved. We will then support you in developing your own EBSA pathway in your school, and this will complement your current mental health support pathways and protocols that exist within your school. So just running aside one another, but just making sure it's more EBSA specific. And this is what will ensure that you've got in place. So it can look at your policies, looking at utilising resources you've got in school, looking at where you can access more health and then that risk support as well. So that will be touched upon in the training, as well as our consultation work that we will do with you throughout the 12 months that follow on from your initial audit process. So from the post training, this is the support you can access, and like I said, we don't force it on you. You access and ask for it as and when you want to, and like I say, we just run with you basically. There isn't anything, no minimum, no maximum that you have to complete. This is just free support if you feel like it would be useful for your school. So that's it on the EBSA programme. If you would like any further information on that, then please do contact me. My email's just at the end of this presentation. And just for the last minute, I'm just going to quickly introduce you to our SEND mental health offer. So this is under development and it will be for the next 12 months. We do have a consultation process that we'll be launching in December to ensure that we do have, we can make the most basically of this support for you and ensure we're offering everything that you do need in the area of SEND. So this is the mental health offer on screen. I won't go through it. You will receive the slides afterwards and you can gain more information on our website. But we're really looking at developing especially that parent care element, and if there's anything we can do really in terms of parent care workshops, in particular with children, with supporting children in families of children with SEND, then please do let us know. So you will be receiving an email in the future, within the next couple of months, about the SEND consultation. So if you do have any ideas to put forward or anything that you'd like to contribute, then please do let us know. Like I said, this is for you and for our schools to make sure that we're providing the support that you do require. So that's it from me, another quick speedy 10-minute session. So if it was a bit much and you do need any more information or any clarification, then do just give me an email. Thanks again, and thank you, Zain.
I was on mute there. Thank you so much, Emma. Really, really, really appreciate your time. It blows my mind how much you can offer and how much support you have put in place for our schools and particularly our young people who are at the centre of all this, so that can benefit from this. So a real credit to the work that you do. Is absolutely phenomenal work that you do, and you genuinely are a big credit to our organisation. It blows my mind. I don't know how you keep on top of all this and how you manage to put all this together, but you are honestly a true diamond. So please make everybody get Emma even busier. Just send her floods of emails. No, I'm joking. And please, we keep saying this time and time again to any of our colleagues that we meet. We are a free service. We are commissioned by Manchester City Council. We are here to support you, even if there's no such thing as a silly question that we say as teachers. Just send us an email and we will try and get some support to you. And if we don't have support to you, we more than likely know the people who can get the support to you as well. So please do get in touch. So thank you so much, Emma. Right, swiftly moving on. I am going to introduce our Senior Quality Assurance Officer, Nuala again, is it? Please forgive me if I have once again said the name wrong.
It's Nuala. You're clearly not
Nuala.
Irish, Iqbal, Zain, are you?
Nuala. I'm going to remember that right. So
Good old
Nuala's
Irish
here.
name.
Yeah, Nuala is here to talk to us about, I think, EBSA related information as well. Is that correct?
It is indeed, yes.
I'll hand over.
Thanks, Zain. So actually, what I'm going to do is enhance a little bit and underpin the information that Emma's just given you, because in Manchester, we were one of the very, very first local authorities that had any kind of guidance and reference points and information about what exactly EBSA is and was. There's only one other local authority, the West Sussex local authority, had something in place 4 years ago, and this isn't new. In school, we've worked with this for years and years and years, but there wasn't a strategic overview of what is it, what are we dealing with, what are the patterns, what are the factors, and that's what West Sussex did in their work, and we then took that on. I did ask permission, it's okay. And so it came just in time for the pandemic and that opening of schools in the September 2020 after lockdowns. We didn't know what was going to happen with the world, but there you go. So we kind of rushed to get something together so that we had some kind of guidance for Manchester schools, for yourselves. 3 years is a long time in mental health. A lot has happened and we have far better understanding now. I say the royal we. I mean, Emma and the team have done an absolutely wonderful piece of work around pulling together that training for schools. One Education EPs also provide training now, which wasn't available in this current form. Lots and lots of places offering this help and support. We have a kind of flow chart, and we're working up a pathway, mental health pathway in Manchester, so that across Manchester you can see at whatever stage you think your young person is at, where is it that you go and get help and support? Are you at the training, awareness, understanding bit, go to health skills? That'd be brilliant. Or do you need some more intensive work? So at the moment we're working on that. The big news is that because so much research now is kind of exploded, really. I'm reading research virtually every day. We have a much better understanding of what this is. And whereas I might have come to you last year, even in the summer, and said, actually, there's a difference between, young people truanting and young people with emotion-based school avoidance. Actually, that's now not the case. The understanding is that it's all on a continuum, and there is a reason why children and young people choose not to come to school. And even that, are they choosing those feelings of anxiety, shame, fear, isolation, whatever it might be? There's no real choice there. So we're having to really sort of pull apart our guidance, look at the language that is being used, look at the language that was used in the research. We see some really good research that actually still uses school refusal. So some of that research that's been quoted in our guidance and in a lot of guidance is now 30 years old. So we are madly trying to update our understanding. We know, as Emma said, that there are some key messages here. Relationships are absolutely key. Our young people need to have a sense of belonging. If they don't feel they belong or have a place in your schools, they will not attend. We have to understand the factors that affect that willingness to attend school or that drive to attend school. Is poverty keeping them away from school? Is it the fact that that they're embarrassed about the clothes, they're worried about not being able to pay for dinner, school trips? There are lots of factors that sort of drive emotion-based school avoidance. Even the word avoidance suggests that there's a bit of a choice about this. So again, when we're re-looking and rewriting our guidance, we're looking at a more non-judgmental language. We're probably going to call our guidance emotion-based school non-attendance, because again, it's that continuum. Where does non-attendance start? Where does it end? We know that by the time young people aren't coming to school, there have probably been flags and warning signs beforehand. Oldham have just done a very big piece of research into this, and what we've been saying in Manchester for years is that you can spot it early enough. You know what the signs are early enough if you can only have a chance to understand what those factors are and what you're looking for. So we'll have that. That's already in the guidance, actually. There are factors around school, lots of factors around school, but there are factors around family, but also within that young person. And you should be able to spot those factors. By year 5, we know that the teachers say to us, we knew that young person was vulnerable. If we can have some way of gathering that information and sharing that at transition into secondary, so that secondary schools are more attuned, they're more aware of children who are at risk of non-attendance, there you go, that's one barrier down right there. So we're working on how we do that. And non-attendance includes a child who avoids a lesson. You know, maybe it's science, maybe it's PE. PE is a very, very common one for young people to avoid. You know, are they just avoiding the dinner hall? What is it that children and young people are not attending to? That is what we're looking at, not just the fact that they are not coming into school every day. It's about any element within your schools where young people are displaying hesitance, reluctance, or they actually just don't want to do it. A word here about some research that's been published on the SAGE journals, looking at young people with autism or displaying autism spectrum type behaviours. In the sample that was researched, 800 young people, 800 families, we're looking at something like 43% of autistic pupils display non-attendance behaviours or avoidance behaviours. What is that about? What is going on there? As Emma said, you know, you have it in your gift in schools to make changes. We call them reasonable adjustments. These are possible. Being creative and listening to the young person, that's all part of building relationships and building that sense of belonging. Do you actually do your pupil voice activities and then really listen? Really take on board the fact that there might be something about our school routines, our processes, our expectations that actually they're the barrier. They're the barrier. What can we do? Is that approach something that you would say hand on heart your school has? Again, the Healthy Schools training will really take you through those processes and really help you. Active listening is only good communication. And that is good practice, not just for our vulnerable young people, but for all young people. Also, another key message is about working together. Attendance leads may well sort of flag up the fact that this child has had random days, and that's a bit of a flag. But actually, are you sharing that information with the SEND leads, with your SENCO? Are you then sharing that information with your whoever is your pastoral care lead or your safeguarding lead? Very often these don't work in isolation. Very often it gives you a real sense of that young person and the family circumstances. And again, that self-reflection about what is it about our school that we can do to change this. All those are really, really key messages. So if your schools don't do that, do not work across each of the piece, safeguarding, SEND, etc., then please do. That's something that has to change really to make this work. Again, reasonable adjustments is a key word here. Key phrase. This is all part of looking at school non-attendance or any non-attendance within school as any other additional need or any other SEND. That's how we deal with this. That's why it's important that you know how to identify, that you have in your school a pathway or a way of addressing these things, but that assess, plan, do, review. What are the issues? What are the factors? How are we going to make this work? And you talk with the young person, you talk with the family, and together you make a plan. I'm just going to say something about stretch zone. Very often, you know, our young people, our vulnerable young people want to stay, need to stay in the comfort zone. We do that ourselves, goodness, you know, we don't want to get out of bed in the morning. We don't want to learn new skills. We don't want to learn, you know, how to use that new software that school has just introduced for you. It's a pain and it's a beggar and it drives us mad. But actually, we can only do those things if we're confident. We can only do those things if we are able to recognise our comfort zone and then take ourselves out into what we call a stretch zone, where we are able to learn. And sometimes we have to do that gently. So it's not enough, or it's not good enough to say, all we need to do is this, and then that young person will come back to school. That anxiety, that emotion may be too overwhelming for them to do that. So it is useful to think about comfort zone. It's important. That's where we feel safe. That's where everything is familiar. That's where we know we can function well. That's where you're starting with our young people who are displaying this school avoidance or non-attendance. And you have to tread very carefully about introducing that stretch zone. Work from where that child is. That's the good practice. Any teacher, you know this. Where does that child know? Where are they functioning? Where are they happy? And then build on that. Children with autism, I've said that autism is a big part of this, but not the whole story. But it's worth considering, you know, the sensory issues, the issues around busy areas, access to quiet spaces, access to staff members who trust them, and being flexible. And I just want to say thanks, Emma, because I've picked Emma's brains about some resources for us to share. You know, I've been on the training that the Healthy Schools have delivered. You know, it's really very good. And between all of us, ourselves, the local authority, Emma at Healthy Schools, I know Sarah's on the call, the EPs, everybody, we're trying to give you the tools and the strategies and the understanding in order to support your young people and families. So we are in the middle of writing that now. It's not an easy thing to do, but we're changing language, we're updating our understanding, and I'd like to think that we'd have something to you within the next half term. And that's it, Zain, from me. I'll stop talking now. So I think that's it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. Really great messages to hear as well, and to hear about the work that's being done. It is new ground that we are, to some extent, well, we know it's happened historically, but it is still, like we said, new ground that we're breaking. We're trying to get a better understanding of, and like I said, we are centering those young people. Everything that we are doing is for those young people to have a better understanding, our change of language. All of the work that we're doing is fantastic. So really appreciate you spending your time with us this afternoon. Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to swiftly hand over to Amy. Amy, you're right there. Thank you so much. Do you have a slide deck you'd like to share?
No, I just thought I'd kind of just chat through.
That's fine.
And I'll try not to take a full 10 minutes if I can, because then
it's okay. No worries.
I'm running over slightly. Hi everyone. So I am Amy Burns. I am one of the educational psychologists at One Education, and I'm just doing two things whilst I'm here with kind of my hats that I wear. So the first one, as Zain mentioned, is the Inclusion Toolkit. I just thought I'd use this opportunity just to let everybody know that the new toolkit's out. I know it's been kind of sent out through MCC. So the new toolkit's out. It is available on the One Education website. There's quite a few new chapters that have been written and added in for this year, and new resources added in. There's some top tips for early years settings and for post-16 settings as well. We've talked about transitions today, for example. Transitions is one of the new chapters, and it really speaks through kind of some advice and guidance. And the idea of the toolkit, if you're not quite sure, is about trying to just give access to anyone in your setting in school. So Senkos and senior leaders, you're not always bombarded. It is meant to be kind of some top tips, some advice, focusing on what staff can be doing to support a range of different needs within the school. But it also does prioritise kind of developing universal strategies to support. So we've talked a lot about, I think, sense of belonging has really come up, and fostering a sense of belonging has come up today. And again, we've got a really nice chapter about that. We've talked about inclusion and equality. Again, we've got a chapter around kind of looking at that as a whole school approach as well. So it's a really useful resource if you haven't had a chance to look at it. So go over onto the One Education website and it's downloadable there. What you do as well, once you download it, there's a survey. So please do complete that. And if you've got any good practice within your setting, please do kind of let us know. Thanks, Zain. You can let us know kind of any of your good practice, and we might get in touch with you too, because we're trying to kind of increase networks between schools as well. On that as well, what we've done last year is develop a parent and carer little guide for the toolkit. And what we're hoping to do over time is start creating more resources for parents and carers that are available through the website. And we are also putting webinars onto the website. At the moment, they are just click and watch. So one's around kind of emotional regulation. Again, that's linked to fostering a sense of school belonging, how fostering that, children feeling like they've got more belonging, they will be more regulated, hopefully, in school. So what we're trying to do is create a really useful kind of resource using the inclusion toolkit to bring things together, but have something there for parents and carers and for staff as well. So that is, as Zain's popped in the chat, on the website there. There are also some consultations that have been happening for if staff have got any concerns about children who have got social, emotional, mental health needs or kind of behaviours that you're worried about. We've been doing some solution circles on afternoons. So if you are interested and do want to come along to any of those, then please email Carrie Bray. I'll pop her email address in the chat. So please do email that if you want to find out more about the SMH consultations that have been happening. Any questions on that, pop them in the chat and I will answer as I go. So my other hat is from the mental health support teams, linking in with Sara Yunus, who's here as well, but also with Mind and 42nd Street and Place to Be, and I think that's everybody. Don't want to miss anyone. And also obviously Healthy Schools and the school nurse as well. So I just thought I'd let you know a little bit about kind of what's been happening. So obviously the mental health support teams and the Thrive in Education offer is rolling out across schools, and lots of secondary schools have got practitioners within those schools now. As EPs, what we've been doing is developing something that we're calling the One Wellbeing offer. So for identified schools, we're working with them to develop their whole school or college approach to help. I think Emma's kind of slide when she showed the different kind of 8 principles, that's basically what we're looking at. We're looking at how do we promote mental health across your school, and we're supporting particular schools with doing that, and providing a bit of extra support with that. This year as well, what we're doing is, so within the kind of commissioners, it actually works kind of across Greater Manchester, and there's been lots of questions about kind of what is good whole school mental health. What does a good whole school college mental health approach look like? So what we're doing, and it's just to let you know really, that we're working across Greater Manchester to have those discussions and to kind of unify kind of what we're doing across Manchester, but also across the other kind of 9 local authorities within Greater Manchester. The other side of what we're looking at as well is we're trying to provide, because obviously we're providing a targeted approach for particular schools, but actually what we're trying to do is widen the offer. So what we are hoping to do is develop more training available to secondary schools. And so one of the trainings we're thinking about at the moment, for example, is about pupil participation, and how we can create a webinar or training that everyone can access that would provide some information about kind of pupil voice and pupil participation. But one of the things we would like to know, and please do let us know, if there's any particular areas of training that you would find helpful that would support you with your whole school college approach to mental health. So do pop any ideas if you've got any in the chat, or do let me know after this. But what we will be doing is creating an offer that, and as that's developed further, we will let you know and start letting you know how you could access that as well. So yeah, hopefully that's I'll stop there.
You've got loads to offer, I'm sure of it as well. But yeah, thank you so much for your time, Amy. One Education, once again, fantastic service that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. And what I really, really appreciate about working in Manchester over the past 3 years as well is that we all the different services, we all come together to complement one another's packages. There's never a competitive response. So we all very much, and you can definitely hear and feel it, is that we just care for the children and young people. We're here to support them first and foremost. So it doesn't particularly matter to who you come to as your first port of call. We will get that information sharing across. We'll work together collaboratively. So whether it's Thrive in Education, whether it's One Education, whether it's Healthy Schools, whether it's Thrive, whoever it is, get in contact, start that journey with us, and we will make sure you get the right resources. So I'm going to swiftly move on to Sarah Yunus. Sarah, I'm just going to pull up your slide. So you're welcome to introduce yourself while I get this loaded.
Thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name's Sara Yunus. I'm the service manager for Manchester Thriving Education. We're a CAMS team that are based in education settings in Manchester. So we're part of CAMS, but we're kind of an early intervention prevention part of CAMS, which I'll show you in a minute when the slides come up. Apologies, I'm not doing my own slides. We're having a few technical issues in MFT, so I didn't want to risk it. So I asked Zain if he could assist me today.
They are just loading up right now. Just give it one minute.
Thank you. So in terms of our project, we cover 40% of schools in Manchester at the minute, but that's including our team along with our partners who are One Education, Manchester Mine, 42nd Street and Place to Be. So it's not always a practitioner from our team that is in there, but they do come under the Manchester Thriving Education umbrella. So just thinking about the overview of our service, we were developed from a green paper in 2018 that was about transforming children and young people's mental health provision in schools and education settings. We sit at the getting help level of the Thrive model, which is the model that's used in Manchester to think about and explain mental health services. So we're after getting advice, which is where MThrive, our partners in MFT, sit, where they're getting help, and we're like I said before, we're in a prevention intervention. So we're pre-CAMS, where when young people are starting to struggle, when they wouldn't meet the criteria for the more core CAMS offer, which is getting more help and getting risk support. As part of that green paper, there was senior mental health lead training offered, and grants were available for all education settings to go on that training. And I guess we're actually known as mental health support teams as well nationally, who are working with schools and colleges as part of this national programme. Next slide, please. The three main functions of our service are listed there. So it's a main bulk of our work is working with one-to-one with young people. For us in CAMS, we deliver CBT informed therapy for MHPs that are from our partner agencies that might be in your schools. They deliver their own version of evidence-based therapy. So for Place to Be, I know it's a more integrative model. For 42nd Street, they offer some counselling, some psychosocial support. So it does depend which practitioner you would have in your secondary school. We also offer support, timely advice and consultation to schools and some staff training. And the whole point of our team is the whole thing was designed, the national model, to complement the existing mental health offer in your school and college. It's not to kind of become a new version of that. So just what I came to talk about today is that we've been working on a crisis pathway, and this came out of conversations we were having quite a lot across the network, that what Zain was just talking about, and Amy, about when young people are starting to struggle in school and maybe hurting themselves or thinking about harming themselves or having suicidal thoughts. And there was various bits of data that were coming up. There was a concern that children and young people were being sent to A&E unnecessarily, so this was causing distress for them. There was a lack of clarity, I think, of advice from CAMS and other mental health providers into education. That's all set in the context of each education setting having its own procedures and protocols. So I know in some education settings, if a young person says that they're thinking about harming themselves, it's in their policy to immediately send them to A&E. So there was different levels of advice and support. We also did a piece of work with our school nursing colleagues about the self-harm pathway that they use in education settings, and that was kind of rolled out in last year. And that's gone really well. So we've just kind of adapted that for schools, I think. So involved in the working party to develop the crisis pathway for education settings was ourselves, core CAMS, single point of access, senior practitioners, school nurses. So that's Olivia Osborne, who's the mental health lead in school nurses, the A&E mental health liaison team that work in A&E. So they would be seeing young people. They would be first point of contact when young people are being sent from school into mental health liaison team, then they would then refer into CAMS, which is where your core CAMS SPOA leads come, City Council Education Department, so the team that Nuala works for, and we formed a working group and developed a plan. So this is a new school crisis pathway. I'm sorry about this slide, I know it's really difficult to see, but the attachment can be sent out, can't it, with the slide deck? And what we're going to do, there'll be a broadcast via Nuala's team and from Amanda Corcoran to all the head teachers, and it will all be launched. So that's basically the diagram of what you need to consider when a young person presents in school and says they're having thoughts of harming themselves, or they've harmed themselves, or they're having suicidal thoughts. It talks you through. We tried to keep it into a one-page simple diagram really for people to follow. It's probably more or less what you're doing already. But we're just trying to make it consistent and clear across the patch. And I guess the main takeaways from that are that think about getting safety plans in your school and how you're going to implement them. Think about staff training for the people that are going to be meeting with these young people, creating a safety plan. Think about always involving parents and carers in that, and your line manager. Make sure you're then reviewing and recording what you're doing with that young person in terms of the safety planning going forward. And I guess instead of going straight for A&E, there's two main things: to use a 24-hour mental health crisis helpline, which is a Greater Manchester one. These are listed in the sort of orange bit at the bottom, and also contact CAMHS duty practitioners in your area, because they can offer advice on the day. Obviously, at times it's difficult to get older people, I know that, but just to consider another port of call and safety planning before you do this straight to A&E, because it's just not a good route for young people. We're trying to move away from it. There's long waits, as we all know, and they don't always get the assessment. They will get an assessment, but then they'll be straight into CAMHS, and that might not meet their needs at that time. So that's kind of the big push from us. As part of the mental health liaison team and the sort of CAMHS duty, there is access to new teams that are set up now in CAMHS, which is the rapid response team and the home intensive treatment team. The route into them is via the crisis line and through CAMHS, so they are better ways of getting young people seen if they are high risk and they do need that intensive support, because otherwise you're looping back through A&E and waiting. So that's just a way. Obviously it's a wider conversation, that. And in terms of launching this and supporting it going forward, there is some self-harm and suicide prevention training that we deliver as a service. We've delivered it into quite a lot of our schools. We've done it as a part of the critical incident training with One Education. We're going to add it into the Behind the Behaviour with some dates to be confirmed. You can also discuss it in your consultation meetings, and we are also launching, just a plug here, some primary school CAMHS consultation meetings, because currently Place to Be are working in 20 primary schools in Manchester, which is a very low number. We're only funded to work up to 50% of all schools by the end of 2025, so there'll always be a gap, but we're thinking of setting up a bit like the safeguarding cluster meetings. We want to pilot this term meeting, so we've already got schools emailing in to book places on that on a first come first served basis, but that's been sent out via a broadcast from the City Council just to get people to start having these conversations. So there'll be a few avenues where you can get support with implementing this crisis pathway, but it's just to kind of talk about that really as an initial today with yourselves, because I know as mental health leads in school, you'll be the port of call for young people. I don't think there's anything else. Has anybody got anything burning questions just right now? I know we take it. How long have I got?
You're pretty much at the end of your time now, unfortunately.
Right. Well,
we've been running over,
chat,
so
yeah, I can respond to. And my email is on the front slide as well.
For everyone to
Thank
see.
you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I know we're on a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and I know we've got a very limited amount of time left. So thank you so much for your time, Sarah. I'm going to very swiftly just pass over now to Rachel Pilling, who should be on the call with us this afternoon. I'll stop presenting those slides. Hi, Rachel. Do you have a slide deck that you want to present?
I've got a couple of slides just to remind everybody who we are and where we are and where we're up to. Okay, just give me 1 second. I'll just find that. Okay.
It's been an action-packed afternoon full of lots of offers, so it's really, really
I'll
quick
literally be 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes.
No, you take as long as you need.
Can you see my slides?
I can indeed, yeah.
All right. Okay, on the back of Sarah, that comes in nicely. So we are the community Manchester Thrive, and we have 3 hubs, which I'll share with you shortly. But just to remind everybody who we are, where we are, and how you can access us. As some of you have probably already seen these slides, but just for people who haven't, I'll recap. So we are a front door to Manchester's emotional wellbeing and mental health offer. So we are a coordinated response with everybody who's been on the call today. So our key partners, Thriving Education, and others that have been mentioned today, Place to Be, Healthy Schools, One Education, etc. So we all know about the Thrive model. I won't go through that, but we sit in the getting advice and signposting, and we start to offer that helping hand with getting help, whether that's where we liaise with Thrive in Education, or we liaise with core CAMS, or we liaise with other services around getting help. We also know where to signpost our young people, again, empowering them to thrive through either they might need more help or they might need risk support. So our original aim and vision was to establish Manchester Thrive Hubs as a single point of contact for Manchester's emotional wellbeing and mental health offer, involving where our hubs and teams are based. So North Manchester is still in the youth zone, Central hub is in Cathlock Centre, and we have a spoke out area in 422, and we have a South hub in Lifestyle. We've also set up a pilot hub in Salford, reaching out to another locality under the MFT umbrella. We have a digital offer, and our digital offer is available all the time. So that's our 7-day offer. We have open access drop-ins for young people to drop in. So we've got times of those. And what we'll do later on, instead of me sending this PowerPoint presentation, I will send you the leaflet so you've got all information in a one-stop shop. I'll also post in the chat the website for the digital offer. So we started this by developing integrated pathways into current and what's currently being used in Manchester around emotional mental health and wellbeing, and other partners and organisations. Busy page, this is the front landing page of our directory and our digital offer. And we have maps on there, so when a young person, parent, carer or professional clicks over those maps, they have access to a directory of what's available in North Manchester, Central and South around emotional mental health and wellbeing, and current offers that we've obviously discussed today that will send links into their directions. We've got a huge offer for professionals around the Keeping Children Safe agenda, linking with Manchester Safeguarding Partnership and Healthy Schools, and where to find all that information on there. Anybody who wants to access our service, we like to call it accessing rather than referring, because we do want to allow our children and young people to know that we're there in terms of that open door drop-in. They can fill out an access form, professionals, schools can fill out an access form, and parents can also fill out an access form. That access form comes through to one of our hubs, whether it's South, Central or North, and they are picked up by the hub locality lead, and they identify the best direction and formulate a plan for our children and young people. We do this by working alongside community place-based services and maximise what's currently out there. We liaise really closely with our key partners. We work closely with Early Help, the EHIT and the EHAT. We work closely with families, and where we're starting to develop more so is how we can work closely with schools and offer consultation where possible around what support is available in schools, obviously making sure that we're not duplicating any offer, for example, around what Thrive in Education are currently offering and already offer. In each hub, we have a hub lead, a practitioner, a navigator, and in some of our hubs, we have pathfinders as well. We have an administrator that supports those hubs. So we're right across Manchester. Just something I just wanted to share with you before we finished. What we found is, since we opened our doors in April 2021, 2,744 young people have accessed our service. The majority of those have come from schools. The second to that is self-referrals, GPs, and then early help and other social services. So that was really what I wanted to share. I've got some other statistics that if anybody wants to talk to me about those in terms of how our service is running and how effective that is, I'm more than happy to share that. Our original vision was around a no waiting list. So we do like to allocate an appointment with our children and young people, and we do see with 100% of our appointments have been seen within 12 weeks, and 95% have been seen within 4 weeks. So that is us. What I'll do, I'll post in the chat my details, I'll put in the website details, and I'll also send to yourself, saying the posters for each hub, if that's okay.
That's more than okay. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. And we have now come to the end of our Mental Health Leads Network. So I've got some final messages just to close on. It will take no longer than just 2 minutes. So hopefully we shouldn't finish much later than the scheduled time. Really, really appreciate everyone's time this afternoon. It never gets taken for granted. So just loading up the last few slides. Bear with me 1 minute, and then I shall let you go. I'll dismiss you like a teacher. Right. We've got a new training package that we are launching on the 21st of November from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. It is a universal training package for all Manchester City Council schools. It's racism and the effects of children and young people's mental health. I shall be leading this training. It's brand spanking new for us, and we're really, really, really excited to be launching this. And it basically aims to explore the definitions of racism and facilitate conversations regarding racism in schools, outline the impact and effects of racism on people's mental health, and provide guidance on moving forward to support pupils. We very much are all in unison when we say that racism is bad. We know racism is bad. That's very, very clear. We don't need to reiterate that. However, what we need to start understanding is the significant impact it can have on children's and young people's mental health. Just speaking from own experiences, I know that I've had racist incidents, been the victim of racist incidents in the past, and I'm an adult now, 30 years old, and as a child, when those incidents happen, I still have flashbacks and think back to those incidences that happened. So they have shaped and molded me as a person. I'm quite resilient and have made it so far in life. However, we need to be aware that it does have a lasting impact on children and young people, and it's classified as one of the 10 traumas responses as well. So discrimination based upon faith and religion and ethnicity can be a traumatic experience for young people. So what are we doing to recognize that and support that? And that is hopefully what is going to be talked about in the training. The link is on the slide just there if you want to click onto it. And very final message, we have a safe active travel competition for Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3 students. So we have a competition going on about can you get from Manchester to Copenhagen within a set period of time. More details are on our websites, and I can share those as well. And there's a bike and helmet prize to be presented before Christmas as well. So we've actually got some pennies to be able to spend as a prize, which is very, very nice. So that is all. I do not want to keep going longer. I never undervalue the time that our wonderful teachers give to attend these meetings. You are on the front lines. You are our soldiers. You are the people who are holding up the system in place. And we as educational practitioners who are outside of the school system at the moment, but supporting you, take our hats off to you. You are absolute fantastic members of staff, and we really, really appreciate the time you give to us. It never, ever, for me, and speaking personally, it never goes undervalued. I was a teacher for many years, so I can understand it from that side. My email address is on the screen there. Should you have any questions at all, I will gather all the information from all the speakers and send out to the information later today or maybe tomorrow morning, now that I've kind of got my brain kind of fried at the minute. So it might come out tonight, might come out tomorrow morning. Thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and evening. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Cheers, everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your comments. Hope you found it, you have found it useful. So that's really great to hear. Thank you so much. Take care. And to any other final delegates, I'll be closing up the meeting now. So if there are any other questions, please direct them towards my inbox now. So thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye, everybody.